You know how sometimes you're just messing around online, digging deep into the weird corners of the internet, looking for something silly or maybe a forgotten piece of history? That's exactly what Maya and Jake were doing late one Tuesday night in their little apartment in Maplewood, Oregon. They weren't serious hackers, just curious. Maya worked in tech support, and Jake was trying to finish his degree online. They were sitting there, surrounded by empty coffee cups and glowing monitors, when Jake, who was following a particularly obscure thread about old cryptocurrency scams, stumbled across it. "Whoa, Maya, check this out," Jake whispered, leaning back in his chair. "I think I found a hidden onion site. It looks ancient." The forum was called the Oracle's Scroll. It was ugly, just black text on a white background. No images, no fancy code, just pure function. It looked like something from 1995. But the content, that's where things got cold. The posts weren't discussions. They were short, cryptic announcements, often written in weird, poetic language, always tagged with a specific location in or around Maplewood. One post from last week read, "The morning commute will be delayed near the old quarry road. A sudden stop where steel meets steel, and the sun will rise late for the driver of the blue sedan." "That's creepy," Maya said, scrolling down. "Is this just some bad poetry by a local weirdo?" "Maybe," Jake replied, "but listen to the next one. It's dated Monday, 4 a.m. He read aloud, "The flicker of the neon sign at the diner on 4th Street will reveal a shadow carrying ill-gotten gains. The siren's wail will follow the flash of adrenaline." They shrugged it off. Coincidence, right? Maplewood wasn't huge, but stuff happened. Then, Wednesday morning, the local news broke. A 3-car pileup on the old quarry road, exactly where the forum had mentioned. A blue sedan was totaled. The driver was fine, but shaken up. "Okay, that's weird," Maya admitted. They went back to the forum that night, their curiosity turning into a nervous obsession. They spent the next 72 hours tracking every post. Friday night, a new post appeared. "The small fire behind the abandoned hardware store on Elm Street. A momentary distraction needed for the larger transaction." They debated calling the fire department, but what would they say? "We saw a cryptic warning on the dark web?" They decided to drive by instead. They parked 3 blocks away and waited, feeling ridiculous. Exactly 2 hours later, they saw the smoke, a small but unmistakable plume rising from behind the hardware store. The fire department arrived quickly. It was minor, just some trash bins, but it was exactly as foretold. That's when the blood drained from their faces. This wasn't coincidence. This was precise. Someone or some group was posting the details of local tragedies, accidents, small crimes, minor disasters, hours before they happened. "We have to stop this," Maya insisted, her voice tight. "We have proof. We have timestamps." They spent Saturday morning downloading every single thread, every IP detail they could sniff out, which was almost nothing thanks to the anonymity tools the forum used. They compiled a thick report and drove straight to the Maplewood Police Department. It went exactly as badly as they feared. Detective Miller, a tired man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, listened patiently for about 10 minutes, occasionally rubbing his temples. "Look, kids," Miller sighed, leaning back in his squeaky leather chair. "I appreciate you coming in, but you've got a bunch of screenshots from the dark web. This stuff is untraceable. It's probably a sophisticated trolling operation. Maybe someone with a police scanner and too much time on their hands making vague predictions." "But they're not vague. They're 100% accurate," Jake argued, frustrated. "And the fire, that was specific." "Unless the person who started the fire posted the warning. We looked into the hardware store fire. Arson on a dumpster. No leads. Unless you have a real name or a physical address, this is just digital noise." They left defeated, feeling foolish and angry. They had tried to do the right thing, and the system slammed the door in their faces. They drove back to the apartment, their mood heavy. They needed coffee, needed to regroup. It was Maya who logged back in first, just out of habit or maybe morbid curiosity. She accessed the forum via their most secure VPN, checking the front page for new activity. And that's when the world tipped upside down. A new thread had appeared at the very top, marked Urgent. The title was chillingly specific: The Curious Interrupters. Maya's hands started shaking so violently she almost dropped the mouse. The post read, "The curious pair sought the light, only to cast their own shadows in the corridors of the local precinct. The tall one wears the faded university hoodie. The short one worries about the pending credit card bill for the new laptop. Their efforts were commendable, but their timing was poor. The oracles see all who dare to look back." It was them. There was no mistaking it. The faded university hoodie Jake had been wearing. The new laptop Maya had just bought on a payment plan, a debt only she knew about. They had been watched, followed, and identified, not just by their IP address, but by their physical presence. "Jake, get over here, now!" Jake read the post, his face turning gray. "They knew we went to the police. They were watching the station." The next 24 hours were a blur of panic. They scrubbed their phones, reformatted their computers, and argued about whether to call the police again and risk another post detailing their current anxiety levels. But the forum wasn't done. The threats started becoming operational. The next morning, a post appeared under the tag Maplewood 4th Street Coffee Kiosk. He always gets the black coffee, extra sugar, from the little stand on 4th Street at 8:15 a.m. Perhaps today, the sugar is replaced with something less sweet, a small discomfort for the reckless. Jake always got coffee at that exact kiosk at that exact time. He looked at the clock. It was 8:05 a.m. "They're not predicting," Maya whispered, the terrible truth finally sinking in. "They are announcing their plans. They are orchestrating the tragedies, and they're using us as a demonstration." They bolted from the apartment, leaving everything behind. They knew they couldn't stay in Maplewood. They drove east for hours, paying for gas with cash, turning off their phones, using back roads until they reached a dingy, forgotten motel near the old Route 12 bridge, about 70 miles outside the city limits. They felt a temporary, shaky safety. They were off the grid. They were anonymous. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. The silence felt too loud. She had to know if they were safe. Using a cheap burner phone they bought at a gas station and a triple-layered VPN connection, she risked one final check. The Oracle scroll was quiet, except for one new massive thread. It wasn't cryptic poetry this time. It was a formal decree. The title was stark: The Reckoning of the Interrupters. Maya clicked the thread, her heart hammering against her ribs. The post was lengthy, detailed, and utterly terrifying. It began, "The two travelers, hiding behind thin walls and fluorescent lights, believe they have escaped the city's grasp. They have chosen a place of forgotten history near the old Route 12 bridge. Their choice is regrettable." Maya scanned the details, her breath catching in her throat as she read the plan. "The heavy downpour tonight will cause a localized power failure near the bridge. An unfortunate electrical surge, mistaken for bad wiring in the old motel, will silence the analytical one, Maya. A simple, quiet end. The impulsive one, Jake, witnessing the flash and the ensuing smoke, will attempt to flee, only to find his escape route blocked. The faulty brake line that was merely delayed for the blue sedan in the earlier incident will be utilized by a heavy vehicle at the bridge exit, ensuring a final, unavoidable collision." The plan wasn't just murder, it was a performance, integrating elements from previous tragedies they had observed. It was a final, horrifying demonstration of their power and reach. Maya looked up from the screen. She heard it then, the distinct sound of heavy rain starting to fall outside,
drumming hard against the cheap motel window. The lights in their room flickered, once, twice. Route 12 bridge, localized power failure, electrical surge. "Jake!" she screamed, throwing the phone across the room. "We have to go, right now! They know exactly where we are!" Jake, startled awake, saw the terror in her eyes. Before he could ask, the lights in the room went completely dark. The rain outside was a torrent. "The key!" Jake yelled, fumbling for the car keys in the sudden absolute darkness. "No, not the car! The bridge exit is blocked! We run!" Maya grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back window. They knew the forum members weren't just predicting the power surge, they were causing it, and the heavy vehicle was already in motion. They smashed the cheap window pane, scrambling out into the soaking rain and the pitch-black night. They didn't grab their bags, their IDs, or their wallets. They ran across the muddy field behind the motel, heading away from the road, away from the bridge, away from the orchestrated tragedy waiting for them. As they ran, stumbling in the dark, they heard a terrifying sound, the loud tearing screech of metal meeting metal from the direction of Route 12, followed by a sickening final crash. The oracles had kept their word. They never stopped running. They disappeared into the night, into the vast anonymous stretches of the country, knowing that they had uncovered something far bigger and darker than just a prediction forum. They learned that night that anonymity on the internet goes both ways. They escaped the immediate threat, yes, but they knew that somewhere in the deep corners of the web, the Oracle's scroll was still posting. And every time a local tragedy made the news, a sudden blackout, a minor accident, a momentary distraction, they wondered if it was just a coincidence or if the oracles were simply setting the stage for the next inevitable performance, and whether one day their own names would appear again on that horrifying scroll.